Godzilla Minus One is here on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, released by Toho. It can be found as a limited collector's edition available at Godzilla.com, as well as a standard release and a steelbook available at your local and online retailers. As a lifelong Godzilla fan, I of course was anxious for the release of Godzilla Minus One. I was completely taken off guard with not only how it's a great Godzilla movie, but a great movie overall. The story takes the concept back to its World War II origins, always a plus in my book, and gives it a new spin. It's also a Godzilla film where I actually care about the humans. The main character of Koichi Shikishima was very well written, as are most of the supporting cast. The struggles of coming back from war are at the forefront in how Koichi picks up the pieces of his life. Of course, Godzilla himself is much more of a threat this time around, a true force of nature. Whenever he's on screen, you can bet destruction will follow. This is one of the few movies in recent years I've seen multiple times in the cinema, both this as well as the minus color version. It's really good to see Godzilla as a character go back to his roots, and if there is a follow-up to Minus One, I can only hope it's half as good as this film is. Godzilla Minus One was my favorite film of 2023, and it's one I plan to go back to many more times in the future. Godzilla Minus One on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray has an aspect ratio of 239:1. It was finished at a 4K digital intermediate, and it supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. For purposes of this review, I will be discussing the Dolby Vision transfer. The long-awaited 4K transfer of Godzilla Minus One certainly does not disappoint and was well worth its US debut. The film was shot digitally, and the creators chose to implement a slight layer of artificial grain to give it a more vintage look. I normally don't like my digitally shot films to use such practices. I just the other day wagged a disapproving finger at the 4K of Horizon and American Saga for doing just this. Still, that being a Western had more to do with wanting the movie to be shot on film as opposed to a digital creation, whereas Godzilla Minus One, due to the special effects heavy nature, I'm inclined to give it a pass. The density of said grain in Godzilla Minus One when I watched it on my 65-inch C9 was less noticeable than when I viewed it on the new 77-inch G4. In both cases, however, it was light, unobtrusive, and provided a more filmic experience. The source itself was clean and free from any blemishes or imperfections, and bit rates were relatively healthy throughout. The film's palette gets a nice enhancement and boost courtesy of Dolby Vision. For a good duration of the film, grays, browns, and blues mostly dominate the visual aesthetic. There aren't a whole lot of bright, cheerful colors to be found, with the exception of the opening sequence at Odo Island and a few sparse day scenes sprinkled during the film. This shows what the grading can do here, but the muted colors themselves also offer an appreciable visual uptick. When Godzilla uses his atomic abilities, however, that gives the viewer a nice visual pop as the blue energy is startlingly vibrant. Skin tones appear natural and whites show nice stability. Black levels are generally well rendered with dark night scenes and properly shadowed interiors. I didn't notice any crushing spotted during my viewing. The 4K digital intermediate gives details a nice bit of depth, especially in regard to close-ups. Image clarity as a whole is spot on and gives the picture a sharp appearance. Despite being a CG creation, Godzilla himself is very well textured, though you can still see the cracks if you look hard enough. Live action elements across the board look fantastic and are brimming with enhanced detail. As of this recording, Godzilla Minus One Minus Color is only available in the sold-out 4-disc limited edition exclusively at Godzilla.com. I will say it's a bit disappointing that this version was only given a Blu-ray here, but at this point, I'm just happy to have it at all. Still, the minus color version is a different experience all around, beginning with the artificial grain that I mentioned earlier in the review being more prominently featured. The sharpness of the image found in the normal version is not as pronounced here, obviously, but the overall level of detail shows good definition. The grayscale for the most part is presented well with no issues, and as I understand, converting the film to black and white from the intended color version was a bit of an arduous process, though I think the results here are fairly well done. I will say, however, that the black levels are probably the weakest aspect of the minus color version, as details sometimes get lost, and there were more than a few instances of crushing. Don't be alarmed, I still feel the minus color version is a noble effort and certainly worth owning. Both Godzilla Minus One as well as Minus One Minus Color supports a Japanese Dolby Atmos audio mix with English subtitles. And for this collector's edition, there is no English dub audio mix. Both versions of the film support an identical Dolby Atmos, and they feature a very high energy and robust track. The opening moments of the film are a good indication of height channel activity and how it's implemented throughout the runtime. Of course, the audio cues whenever Godzilla is on screen, even early on in the Odo Island sequence, are when things really get interesting up there. There's also a good amount of environmental and general ambience, as well as score that populate the heights consistently. Mid-level and rear output is prominent, plentiful, and always engaging. There are some great panning and dynamic activity that makes really solid use of the surround environment. Koichi and his fighter in the third act, for example, freely moves around the room. The center channel is clean and clear with no problems to report, and even when the action really kicks in, I had no issues hearing dialogue. The LFE output is just as monstrous as Godzilla himself, as every footstep rumbles and hits with authority. The immense level of destruction itself also lands pretty hard. The low end is certainly not shy, and it gets consistent use from start to finish. As for supplements, the good news is that on a separate disc is a whole bevy of extras. The bad news is it's not translated or dubbed into English. Essentially, you either have to understand Japanese or utilize some kind of external source in order to be able to really partake in what's offered here. For the picture quality, I'm going to give Godzilla -1 on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray an A. The transfer for the film is a really well done presentation, which gives the viewer a nice enhancement to detail, as well as a boost to the palette courtesy of Dolby Vision. The movie looks excellent, and I don't think anybody will be disappointed with how it looks on 4K. For the audio, this one gets an A+. The Dolby Atmos is easily one of the best I've heard in 2024, as its use of audio cues extends to every square inch of the surround environment. There's a lot to take in, and it's easily one of the best sounding discs of the year. And for the extras, I'm giving it a dual grade of an A as far as content, but an F as far as implementation. This is a difficult one to actually assign a grade, as in theory I feel the quality and amount of extras warrants a higher grade, but the lack of easy ability to actually understand what's being said kind of makes the bonus materials useless to the average viewer. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a wash. So that is my review of Godzilla -1 on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray from Toho. If you're interested in picking up a copy for yourself, I will leave an Amazon link for the standard and steelbook release in the comment section. If you use them, they really help out the channel. And if you have the 4K disc already, let me know your thoughts down below. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guide 365. I will see you at the movies.